Hi everyone, it's 2:30 p.m. It's a Wednesday afternoon. You're watching Innovation Fika with me, Donny, here live on LinkedIn and on Facebook and YouTube and all that other channels. Actually, this is actually a recording of the live that I did last week with Johan Ronnestam that you'll be meeting very, very soon here in the studio, because I'm actually probably, when you're watching this, in the sky, in an airplane flying to the United States to go to a conference. So this is the recording of an actual show I did before. But anyway, Innovation Fika, every Wednesday afternoon, 2:30 p.m. with me, Donny, here on LinkedIn. And you'll find all of the recordings on YouTube. So go to the Innovation Fika channel on YouTube, where you will find, after this episode, 82 episodes of Innovation Fika. This is episode 82. All of the written content, because I post almost every day on LinkedIn as well, you'll find on my Medium page. So go to Medium, Donny S. Ligones. You'll find all of the 471 posts there or something like that. Enough about me, enough about that. Today, I have the great pleasure of welcoming Johan Ronnestam into the studio. Welcome into the studio. Hey,
thank you very much.
Johan, I'm so happy that you could join me here today. I've been wanting to get you on the show forever, of course. And I won't start by introducing you. I'll start by asking you the same question I ask everybody who come on the show. I say, hello, Johan, who are you and what do you do?
Oh, that's a tough question. Now, what I do, I work a lot with design. I work a lot with understanding how technology impacts human beings in different areas. And I've been obsessed with this maybe since I started using the internet around 1993. And then I work with design in terms of logotypes all the way to what I call commercial architecture, which means it's something you use for marketing rather than living in. So there's no pipes, there's no electricity, and there's electricity. And then I also start the different businesses around the areas that I find intriguing, and I run one company called Baux. I run Ross Studios, or Studio Ronnestam, which is where we do a lot of creative stuff, and then I, for fun, do a golf ball brand since some time back, and I'm also involved in other places as well.
As you hear, Johan is a serial and parallel entrepreneur, an extremely creative force. And I know for a fact, though, and I've actually invited you on here today to talk about personal, not branding, but personal vision and personal, we'll call it optimizational life sort of perspective. And I know that you told me a story that you were like, when you were 38, you sat down, you wrote a life manifest of sort of,
yes.
What's my life going to be like? What am I doing with my life? And how did you get into that sort of?
Well, what I found is I've been privileged to be in good spaces for a long time, and I think it comes back to me actually buying a computer in around 1993. I started code the web, and I started design things, and it was very popular around 97, 98. I got into that business. I worked with Nike, Adidas, H&M, and Absolute Vodka, and so on. And then, people start knocking on your door and say, hey, can you be a part of this? And can you be part of that? And can you be in our board? And can you be part of this startup? And I found myself, probably earlier, because it took some time to realize it. I found myself being pushed forward into life by opportunities that I was attracted to at the time. Mm-hmm. And they necessarily didn't match my long-term goals from a personal point of view. So I started sitting down. I thought about this, and very simply, the Life Manifesto was for me a compilation of learnings I learned from Jeff Bezos, actually, with Amazon. Yeah. And he wrote one time that most companies, they have their strategy for a company is too short. Usually you have like a 3-5 year strategy. And he says, if you really want to change something, do something big, you need like a 10 or 15 year vision. But you need to follow up every 6 months, not every year. So what I did was basically I wrote the vision for where do I want to be in 10 years in my life. Very visionary. And then and also on a personal level. And then every 6 months, I actually sit down and I think about how is it working with my family? How is my life when it comes to my, my sports and whatever I do? How is that working? My business opportunities and my hobbies and everything. And then I follow up every 6 months. And the difference for me, it was really good, because then suddenly you sat down and I thought like, okay, so if I'm in this board or mentorship or advisory board, how does that impact my 10-year plan? Not at all. So I called some people and I said, like, thanks for being in your advisor board or your board, but I have to leave. And they're like, why? Because this doesn't do anything for me in the 10-year plan. And then, as time goes on, now it's just something I think about every year before summer. And then I think about it soon when we reach Christmas, like, how was the fall? How was the spring? But it really helped me to steer my life in a good direction.
And do you feel in general that people are too short-sighted with their own lives and with where they are and where they're, with a very short?
What I found, I'm 51 years old, so I'm getting old now. And what I found is that when you're young, you're just very positive, which is super, super good. And I don't have any opinions on people's way of living at all. But I do find that I meet a lot of people around their 40s and then like, fuck, I'm working with this business and I wish I would have done something else. And that's very common.
That's very common. That's a classic, yeah.
Or I wish I would have married a different woman, or I wish I would have lived in a different place. And I think the problem is that when you're young, you're looking for safety and comfort in your life. So you get this work in a bank or whatever, or in some startup with something you don't really care about. And then, 10 years later, you have built your housing and your cars and your family lifestyle and everything around the way you live. And it's really hard to eject, sort of. Yeah, so that's why I think it's important. I've been a little bit like this all the time. I've just made it more structured. I have a background as a professional snowboarder, and that has really impacted my way of living, because it taught me that if I just do everything the opposite, I will succeed.
Yeah, but I think you're. I mean, okay. So it sounds like a cliche, but the classics, 40 to 50 year crisis when people sort of realize that, how did I end up here?
Exactly.
And it's like this chain of events that led us to a point where we didn't have a steering vision where we were going. We sort of ended up there because opportunities fell into our laps, and we sort of, okay, well, I'll take this. Well, this is fun. I'll do this. Yeah. And then you're sitting there going, I wouldn't.
And it's easy to seduce people, like, let's say I say to you, like, this Donny, this was really nice. I have another project where we do live cast, and I think it could be really big. Maybe you should be a part of it. And you're like, wow, I'm doing live cast. Maybe I should be a part of that. And then you just dive into it because I seduced you into the business, not because you stopped and said, like, fine, but how does it go in line with my ideas of where I want to be as a person? Yeah. I think for me, that has been very important, that it's more connected to who I am and where I want to be. And then, of course, there's a lot of things around it. So,
And how does that sort of spill into your, I mean, you work in very many different kinds of companies, but they all have some kind of creative touch to them. Yeah. How does that sort of spill into how you work with other people?
So I think when I wrote this manifesto, I also thought about, I want to work with sustainability. I want to help other people. I want to, help create the diversity in the workspace and so on. So that has led to me thinking about, when I recruit a new person to my company, I want to think about how we do that and how can I find different people that are different from me, but still that we have the same values in how we look at life and so on. When I think about leadership, for example, I always think about, I tell my employees, for example, if you work with me, I want you to create the strongest portfolio ever, so you can quit whenever you want. And if you quit, I'll be super happy for you. Because I just feel that I don't want to run people as slaves, I want you to, if you work with me, I think you're helping me. Hopefully I help you. But if it lasts 6 months or 6 years or, I don't know, 12 years, that's fine. But I think in the long run, I want to make sure that when you leave me or my company, at least, I want you to be I want you to have better opportunities in life.
I mean, but this is mind-blowing, because this is like the opposite of how you see companies and people working in general. Yeah. Because it's, they try and lock you in, lock you down, and make sure that you're you're actually helping them become the best possible version of themselves by giving them.
That's my goal, I think, because I think that goes back to my values, that I think people, as a foundation, I think that has to do with different things. But I just think we're here for fun on this planet. I think we consist of atoms and everything, and I'm parts of me is a flower or whatever, and I will become something else. So I don't take life. I take life very serious when it comes to respecting, the planet and respecting other human beings. But I think, we only live here for a short time, so we should have as much fun as possible. And if I want to have as much fun as possible, I want you to have as much fun as possible. And if we end up, creating a company together, it's still not very. Most things are not very important. There are a lot of things that are super important in life. Currently, I'm not doing something super important. I do sustainability. I do a lot of those things. They're probably sort of important, but all in all, I'm just trying to, live through life. And I just want to make sure other people can do that while they're on this planet. And so it's a much more playful vision, I think, rather than me earning money on some business.
Yeah, but it comes back to the whole. I mean, we hear again. I know it sounds like cliches, but it comes back to the whole thing. Work with things you're passionate about. Work with and have fun when you do what you're doing, because that will shine through, and it will. You'll enjoy what you're doing, and if you enjoy what you're doing, you'll do it better. And so forth and so forth and so forth. And when we say it like this, it sounds kind of obvious, but still, it seems so hard because business is supposed to be serious. You're supposed to have fun. You're supposed to be,
Exactly. And I think it's just another planet for me if you think business should be serious, because I think, of course, I have to pay the salaries. I have to make sure you have the right computer. I have to make sure you can get to work and everything. But in the long run, I think it was Bruce Lee or someone who said, put your hand in a bucket of water and take it out and see what's left. That's how we live, sort of, our short time on life. So I just want to make sure that it's good. So I don't know. I just found that if you want to work with creative things, you want maximum creativity from the people you work with. And that means that you have to make people feel very comfortable. If I want to be creative, my strength when I do something, if someone would say that I am a creative person, I think it comes back to feeling secure, that I can feel that I can get fired anytime, I can leave my work, I can do whatever I want. Then I'm okay with suggesting strange things or stupid ideas. But if I feel that, okay, if I do this, if I come here on your podcast and I say the wrong thing, he's not going to broadcast this. If that's my goal, then I'm just going to stand there and try to say the right things.
Exactly.
And that's not really important when it comes to creativity.
But indeed, I mean, that's the whole difference between avoiding risk and attempting something new instead, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Super. And I want to come back to, you were talking about values.
Yeah.
Because this is something that I feel very strongly about as well when it comes to working with people with similar kind of values. And this, please correct me if I'm wrong or comment on this, because I feel that some companies, people misunderstand that. They mix up the whole sort of basic value thing with people who have the same opinions that I do, which I feel is two different things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, what I do is I strive to. For a long time, I started my first business in 2000, and then we spent a lot of time when we recruited people to describe what kind of values we had, what we thought was right about the planet or wrong about the planet, right about how you treat other people and so on. And then I've gone even further. So nowadays I even put in right now we're recruiting a junior designer, for example, and we put in things like we want you to appreciate nature. We think so there's a merit when you apply for this job. That you like nature, because the other thing is it's a little bit, if you remember Maslow's pyramid of needs, the bottom is like just safety and food. For me, that's what you do.
Yeah.
Like if you're a designer, I just expect you to pass that one. Then everything on the way up is what I'm looking for when I recruit people, and it's the same with values. So I want to make sure that. And the top one is self-fulfillment. And that's the same here. I want people to feel that they can be self-fulfilled. But on the way there, I want them to share my values because I'm not saying what is right and wrong values. You and me might have different ones. But I found that later than when I recruit people based on values or when I work with people based on values, we can disagree on things, but we still have a common objective of where we want to be in life, not in terms of business. I think... I'm the leader, so I, together with my group or not, I don't know. I don't necessarily think it's wrong with hierarchy in some senses, and sometimes you don't need it. But that's not the same as having, let's say we have 2 hours or 2 weeks of creative workshopping around recreating the future of computers. Then we have to be really free, and you have to be able to say things I don't like and vice versa. But I do think if we share some common values, we can really feel safe. The same way we talked about earlier, I can feel safe about suggesting stupid ideas because we will have an argument, but it's not about us.
Exactly.
But if you and me have very different values, the base values, we will end up in discussion on what is right and wrong from another perspective. I think in sense, we just had the election in Sweden. I think if you're a left-wing party or a right-wing party, you will have different base values. So you can't really, you can of course agree on some things, but I wouldn't, create a company with so far, or a political party with people from the left and the right wing. So I think it's the same at the workplace, that you want people to share values, and you really want people. If you have that, then people can be strong in their personalities and they can feel secure. And I think it's all about that.
I think that is also very true when it comes to the basic security. I mean, I compare it to one day I'm going to write that book about running a company as a marriage. I mean, it's a relationship because if you're married to somebody, well, if you're living with somebody,
such a good comparison.
If you agree with that person, that you and me, we're going to spend our life together, and we have the same basic values, and we're on, this is our sort of direction. This is our vision together. Then we can disagree about about small things along the way. But that doesn't mean that every time. It doesn't mean that every time I don't agree with you, I want a divorce.
Exactly. And I totally agree. And I think that's a really good comparison. I think when you live in a relation, everyone knows that you will have hard times and good times, but it's about doing the work. And if you have had a really bad argument or something, and then maybe you go to work and you're still angry at each other, then you start thinking, okay, so when I come home, what shall we do to make this right? Because I love her or him or his or whatever it's called, in him and whatever it's called. And I think that's the difference, because then you always come back to trying to solve things. I think the minute if you would realize that, okay, we had this argument in our marriage because we have totally different values, that's what leads to a divorce. Not that you argue about what time you should get the kids or who should get the kids from school. That might be an argument because someone is stressed, but in the long term you will solve it.
Indeed. Indeed. And another thing, we could probably stand here all day talking about this. Is so interesting. And I know another thing that you also, you see the person as a whole. So we're talking both mind and body as well.
Exactly.
That's a big part as well, right?
For me it's always been a big part. I mean, what I do is I always loved breaking down problems or challenges into the different bits that you're supposed to be good at. Not to beat other people, that has never been my goal, but to be really good at something. I don't know where that comes from. I think maybe it's because I just want to make sure I don't fail when I talk to someone or whatever. But so for me, working has been like, okay, so how do you become better at making sure you perform when you work? Well, you need to sleep well, you need to eat well, you need to be probably quite strong in your body because it's going to make you last longer during the day. You want to be, know everything. So I read massive amounts of information around whatever subject I'm into, because I don't want to go into a meeting and not be read up on what I'm supposed to read up on. But then also I think it comes back to thinking how does my mind think about becoming better? I think when you look at sports, everyone would agree upon that if Roger Federer, who now has quit, but if he plays a game of tennis and he plays bad, he doesn't stop the game. He just finishes the game, reads the data, and then realizes, okay, I need to be better at my forehand or whatever. Then he goes back to train on that.
Exactly.
And I think there's a book by Anders Hansen called Peak, where he breaks down how the brain works. And it's all about breaking down whatever you work with, if it's sports, music, or specific, or coding, or whatever, and then realize, how can I break everything down into bits and become better at what I do? My goal to do this is not to work more. It's to work faster, more efficient, so I can be more free, and in my case, surf and ski. So for example, very stupid example, but my first job when I actually had a computer. I came down, I was snowboarding, came down to Stockholm, I got this job, and they gave me a computer at work. I had been doing computers at home for a long time, but now suddenly I was supposed to write things. So the first thing I did was like, okay, I'm losing half an hour a day because I'm writing slow. So the first year, every morning when I came to work, I wrote the alphabet back and forth for 10 minutes. Because then I realized then I can save 25 minutes every day and from just writing. And then I can use those 25 minutes to go for lunch for a longer time.
Yeah.
My goal has never been to work fast, to work more. I can work faster so I can be more free. But I do the same with, like waking up early, trying to think about how can I make sure, for example, I very seldom go in traffic before 10 o'clock, or I don't take meetings before 10 o'clock, because then I can go from home if I go with public transport or car sometimes. There's no queues.
No, of course.
I don't see and I do that with everything. So the same with just preparing well, thinking about how you can perform better. So I think.
I'm completely with you on so many things. One thing is the queue part.
Yeah.
When I don't commute anymore because in my life manifest, and that was actually almost 20 years ago. It was like no more commuting. I need to live so I can walk or bike to work.
Yeah.
And that's and I've kept to that. I refuse to sit in a car queue or in a commuting thing. But when I do have to, I completely buy into the whole thing. When do I want to leave? So I can either leave before and have an open road and then come to where I'm going and sit there for an hour and get some work done, or leave after. But why sit in the damn queue?
Yeah, and what I find interesting, going back until how you work and how you spend time with other people, is that I think many people end up in those queues because someone says, "Can you take a meeting at 5 o'clock?" They're like, "Okay, I'll take the meeting at 5 o'clock." And I've been having this guy trying to have a meeting with me at 4 o'clock now for 4 weeks. And he's like, "Can't you?" I'm like, "I don't take meeting after 3, but I can take meet." And then I give him a lot of opportunities. And you might think I'm stubborn, but I also tell him, like, I don't do this because it makes me lead a better life so I can do a better job.
Yeah.
So it's not because I'm not nice to you. It's because I know that if you want me to do this job that you want me to do, it's going to be better for both of us.
This people, listen to this. This is it. It's like, when I get invited to speak at the conference and they want me to talk in the morning, I say, okay, I'm traveling there the day before. I want a hotel.
Exactly.
I want to get up nice and not too early, but in my own there. I want to, maybe I go for a run or something and have a good breakfast, because you want me to perform 100% on stage in that morning. You do not want me getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, getting on an airplane or whatever I'm doing, and then getting there all sort of, oh, I got up at 3 o'clock this morning, I'm so tired, If you want me to perform 100%, then we need to work on the details, how to bring me to that point.
And I think the key word there is performance. I think doesn't matter, guys, if you stay up all night or all morning. I mean, you have to do it in the way that feels good for you. But I think it's about performance. And I think I also get that sometimes when people want me to talk on stage, they contact me and say, like, can you send your presentation? And I'm like, I don't send my presentations. I do it this way. And they're like, well, we do it this way. And I'm like, well, if I'm supposed to be on stage and make your audience think I'm super, this is how I do it. If that doesn't work for you, I suggest you go to someone else. And it's like, it's so strange, because if you would tell Roger Federer, like, can you come and play US Open, but you have to play with this tennis racket? He would like, are you stupid? But in work, people that constantly take the tennis rackets they're offered by someone else. Computers. People go like, I worked with this software or this computer. I have this RAM memory in my computer, this hard drive. And then someone says, well, now you're in this company, you're supposed to have this. And it's like cutting people's feet.
Well, that's super interesting how we sub-optimize.
Exactly. We sub-optimize. It's like going back to math in school. If I was not super good in math, but if you had someone who was super good, you take them down to the medium level, and you try to take the other ones up to the medium level. And it's the same still at work. And I think that's what I think is super important, that you, and I think if you say no to things, always remember someone else will see, he said no to that. Maybe he wants to come to us, or she.
Of course.
Yeah, and that's
being clear. That's doing. I know if you don't know, I don't know if you've watched the episode with Tara Lafon Gush, where she said, we were talking about LinkedIn branding. And she said, whatever you do it with intention. And be clear about who you want to be seen as well. Because people will see that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's a bit the same kind of thing here we're talking about here, right?
I have this fun anecdote about startups. It's not like a startup, but when I started my agency that I ran for many years, we were around 50 people at the time. But in the beginning, I had said I took in another colleague, and we had said that we want to work with marketing, digital marketing, and advertising. And then we worked with Adidas globally, and we had this project. And then one of the clients comes to us. They had lots of project managers, and he said, like, well, we have this new project. It's an internet project. And my colleague said, oh, it's a lot of money in that project. I'm like, no, we don't do internet. She's like, yeah, but we can do it. It's very easy. No, but then people will think we do internet. So we tell the client, like, sorry, but we don't do internet. Then he says, like, well, I have another project. And then he gave us the same amount of money for another project because we said no and told him this is what we want.
Yeah.
And because he liked us, obviously.
Well,
and if we would have, we talked about before about the long-term goals. If we would have said yes, we do the internet, it would have been like a half-year project.
Yeah.
And our portfolio would have been intranets, and the next project would have been internet.
Well, I can tell you what, I made that mistake myself. Exactly that mistake. Can you do internet? Heck yeah, we can do internet. And then we were like all over the place, and we didn't really become anything. We were like any kind of. So I've done that. I got the T-shirt and the whole thing from that one. So I've made that mistake. We were talking about people, and we were talking about also the mind and body. Do you also? You're talking about values then, but do you encourage the people you work with when it comes to nature and sports and that kind of thing as well? Is it?
Yeah. I mean, what we do in the people that I have employed, we have like 6 weeks vacation. Doesn't sound very much, but what I've said is during those 6 weeks they're not supposed to be contactable at all.
Okay.
But then they also have all the other time they feel they can be off. So for the summers, they usually have 2-3 weeks extra, but then they have to be on. And then I always encourage them to do something, that they want to be passionate about. Hopefully, I have recruited people that is close to me. But we do things in nature. We go away in off-sites. We usually go hiking or skiing or something like that. But I also do, if I meet people and they want to have like a lunch and I feel my schedule is tight, the only time I push my schedule is let's say you would have called me and said, can we have like a meeting? And I'm like, it's pretty full, but we can go running. So I do running meetings, I do walking meetings, I do biking meetings, I do paddling meetings, I do all kinds of things. But I mean, the same as we talked before, I don't really want to push people into doing what they don't like. So if we would go skiing and someone wouldn't want to ski, that's fine, but I find that's what I mean. It's really hard. I bet many of you who have been employees in a big workplace can witness that you've been in conferences where people is supposed to do a lot of shit that no one likes because some H&R person has we have to come up with a fun schedule. Let's do this and this and this. And no one really likes doing that when all people want to do is socialize and have fun together. And it's okay to say like, okay, so this afternoon we are going to put out some drinks and juices and stuff and do whatever you want.
Don't worry about it.
I mean, they will solve it.
I mean, looking at the time here, we need to get to the guest top 3 tips because we're past half an hour. But just to comment on your last thing, because I was setting up a network event when I was working in Silicon Valley. And I said, well, let's get all of the Nordics together once per month for a breakfast. And then one of the administrators said, but what are we going to do? We need a speaker. We need content. I said, well, we don't. They are the content. Exactly. They network. They want to talk to each other. But what do you mean? We're just going to give them free food and they're going to be here? I said, it's a networking event. That's what we're going to do. But what about the content? What are we going to fill it with? With them. They are the content.
They are the content.
And it just didn't it had to be something,
Yeah, and I must shortly comment on that. when someone asked me to speak at an event, I always, so for today, for example, I don't know what's going to happen. It sounds like I'm selling a conversation here, but I used to, when I was younger, I was like, okay, so it's between 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock. And then I put it in my calendar. Then I can be in the other meeting at 12. Now I always put in like 1 hour after. So if someone wants to talk, I'm there for them and talk. But also when I go to bigger events, like with breakouts and everything, I don't push every single hour into my schedule. I always think about maybe 2 hours should be free.
Yeah.
And see who I meet and who I can, talk to. And I think that's goes back to what you said, that you have to be open to just creating the content with other people. And, everyone out there is probably, driven personalities. But I think if you go to a big event and you feel I don't know anyone, and you go out to someone and say, wow, it's sunny outside, that day is going to be perfect. That's all you need to do.
I know. All right, we could go on for hours, Johan, and we probably will. But for the show, we need to get to the point where, okay, top 3 tips then from Johan when it comes to, the life, living the life you want to live. Yeah. The 3 tips. What's your top 3 tips now?
We talked about it. I think it was a interesting question. I think the first one is to create a vision of where you want to be as a human being from a personal level, maybe 10, 15 years ahead. And then think about what do you do today in order to get there? Because you will realize when you get older that if you want to be surfing more, skiing more, working more, making love more, whatever, it doesn't come tomorrow. If you don't have a long-term vision, you will also be stressed if it's a short-term vision, because you will find out, it's not happening for me. But if you think like, okay, let's think 10 years ahead, I want to be working with electronics. I don't know anything about it. And then think about, what can I do in the next half year to work with electronics in 10 years time? Maybe I sign up for a simple course. And then you do that, and then you evaluate. I think that's super important, but it should be from a personal point of view. How will it affect you, your family, your friendships and everything? And then go down to like, what are you as a human being? I'm curious. I like new things. Then I want to work with that. Don't make the 10-year plan of that I want to code more Java. Put it as a big thing. Yeah. The second one is, I think we talked about all of them, but I think values is super important. You will find that you will lead a much better personal life and work life if you truly understand what are your core values, what is important for you in life, and then signal them around you to other people. Like if you meet someone, don't be afraid about telling other people about your opinions about what you love about life and what you don't love, because it will group you together with other people the same way we talked about the relation, the same way at work. It will be easier to go through the hard times. The easy times are never hard, but the hard times are the easy. That's when you need to keep on pushing, and then you need people that share your base values, not your goal to code a better app, because people leave immediately. You will find that out quickly. And the last one is body, mind, and soul. And I want to, let's see if I remember them. I will give you 4 recommendations of books that I think is important. One we talked about, Anders Hansen, Peak. It's about how your brain can react to changes and how you can train yourself to become better at things. It's a super interesting book based on research. The other one is very philosophical. It's called Meditations. Marcus Aurelius wrote this 8 short books. He considered himself a Stoic, and he thought about how to become a better human being. What's really good is that he puts everything towards himself. He only blames himself for other things. He doesn't say that someone else has the problem.
I'll second that recommendation.
And then we have Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow of Hahnemann, which I think just shows that you can, something that is hard for you, if you train long enough, it will become part of your spine. So it will just be a reaction. And I find that in work now, after 25 years of working, that a lot of things that I do is just something I do because I'm so used to it. And the last one is now I lost it. It's this other Nobel Prize guy. I will give it to you. Maybe you can put it in there. That's what it's about.
You see, just like that. Thank you. We have to add this as well. Look, and everybody follow Johan on LinkedIn. Check him out. Ronnestam.com. Super inspiring. What an incredible half an hour. Thank you so much for coming here today.
Thank you so much.
I am so grateful. And
bye.
Bye, everyone.